So, artificial intelligence is very much a hot topic at the moment. It has absolutely exploded after the last few years, and something that was kind of fringe, something that was not that popular, has entered pretty much every facet of our life. If you edit using Adobe programs like me, you'll use AI and probably not even realize it. At this point, every major tech company has its own AI. If you search for something in Google, you'll get a load of results back from Gemini. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it's here and it's only going to grow from here. And we're also going to talk as well about how it'll shape even things like getting around, Ed, even things like just driving around. AI is here and it's here to stay.
Yeah, and I think people love it and they're also scared of it. Right? When that word comes out is, oh, AI is going to take all our jobs away. We won't need, truck drivers are going to lose their jobs. In fact, just this week I heard on the radio that there's these music generators out there, and it's not going to generate the next hit, but there was a guy that made jingles for ads and things like that. And he said that these tools are probably better than things that he can create. So little by little, they're grabbing more. But people I think are worried they lose control. That it's unpredictable what some of these tools are going to do. And now AI is becoming a bigger and bigger part of cars. And it's no longer like, oh, it's just going to give me an embarrassing, if it's checking your email out or helping you generate an email, it might make a sentence. It wasn't what you wanted, an embarrassing sentence. Well, that's one thing. But if it's in your car and it makes a crazy mistake, then it's something else. And so, but it is starting to move into cars now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's interesting you mentioned about the music and stuff like that. There's been so many songs that have been generated through AI, a bunch of artists that were never even alive at the same time doing collaborations. And yeah, with things like voice recordings and stuff, there's been a big controversy up in Scotland. I forget which one. I think it's for ScotRail, the railway service up there, where the lady who did the announcement for years and years is she's been replaced by an AI voice because they don't want to pay her, presumably to cut costs. And that's a bit sad when you hear stuff like that. But this has always happened to an extent. People, technology moves on, jobs evolve, people need to move with it, but it doesn't make it any less difficult for them. But yeah, the motoring aspect of it is a very interesting one. Autonomous cars, self-driving cars, we spoke in depth about that. We had a look at a video together from the 1950s about that. That's been something that has been 10 years away for the last 60 years. Now it feels like it might not even be 10 years away. You've got Waymo with their taxi services over in the US. You've got Tesla testing out their robo taxis. You've got Uber, of course. You just told me they've made a big purchase as well. It feels like it's very much a matter of time at this point.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of announcements happening, and we'll probably get into a little bit of detail on some of those. But it's AI in cars. There's so many aspects to it, and one of them, the obvious one, everyone jumps on right away is autonomous driving. There's also assisted driving, like ADAS systems, where it helps you in staying in your lane and things like that. I mean, even there's AI even behind the apps that help us from not getting lost, that kind of thing, or really helping us, avoid accidents. But there are the worries, and like one of them, for instance, is like the car is now going to be making ethical decisions. I don't know if you ever heard of the trolley problem, right? A trolley's going down the tracks, and if it continues on the track it's on, it could actually kill, say, four or five people, or kill or harm. But if he pulls the lever and it goes to the other track, it would kill only one person. So what do? Right? What decision does it make? And there's this MIT put this thing out called the moral machine, and it actually has people vote. Like it compares, it's the trolley problem, but it says like on one track is a woman with a baby crossing the road, and on the other track is a criminal. Where do you pull the lever? And it lists all these things. It's got lawyers, doctors, rich people, poor people. The interesting one I found on there is criminals are almost at the bottom. The only thing that was lower than a criminal was a cat. So it goes dog, criminal, cat at the bottom. So, these systems, these autonomous systems have to make these ethical decisions. They're also becoming they're becoming smarter than us supposedly, right? And they're like a backseat driver. And I'm going to give you this is a personal experience I had in my car, which has a lane keep assist. It's in a lot of cars now. Except I was driving in the middle of a snowstorm, so it couldn't see the little white lines. They were covered with snow, and there was like dark tire tracks where there was no snow. So even for a human, it was hard to tell where the lane is. Well, I'll tell you what, this thing was going crazy. It was jerking my car around. I'm trying to keep it in control. And then it had the gall to tell me that I think you're fatigued. Your car is swerving. You should pull over. Oh, I was about to go crazy and I couldn't even figure out how to turn the thing off. I had to pull over and go online and look up the model year of my car and so I mean these things I think will improve, but I think these are the things that people are scared of. But like you said, it's more than just actually driving. There's a lot that happens where AI gets involved, everywhere from design all the way through to, how you maintain your car and all that. So there's good and bad, and it takes time.
Yeah, it definitely does take time. And it's interesting you say that my car's got a bit of ADAS as well. And I remember one time I was going to set off to commute to my old job, which was a good hour drive or so away. It was first thing in the morning, it was a really cold morning. I got in my car, got to the end of the street, and it said, puncture, you have a puncture. You need to stop now. So then I'm like, oh, what the hell? What's going on? I've only just woke up at this point, only just had my first coffee, just got to basically the end of the street for a 30-mile journey to get get down to my work. And then the car was going really slow. So I'm like, oh man, I must have a puncture. Like, how did I not see that? And then I pull over and I look at all the tires. They're absolutely fine. I didn't realize that the car manually limited me to 10 miles an hour because it thought I had a puncture, but I hadn't. So then I reset the pressures on the gauge thing and it was fine all the way down. No problems whatsoever. But that absolutely scared the living daylights out of me. And that was just because it was a cold day. So these computer systems, they do have a long way to go.
Imagine if you were with your wife and she's about to have a baby and you're trying to get to the hospital. And this thing pulls you over like that. And this is exactly what people are scared about. And I think, though, one thing that's good about these autonomous cars, or even these systems like you're talking about here, they're really automated systems that help you drive, is that they learn from all the cars that are on the road. So if you were to complain about this in London, say, one would hope that that improvement will say driving my wife that's about to give birth to the hospital fix, right, would then soon appear on cars all over the world. And in that way, I think the rate at which they would improve on average would probably be better than humans because on average, the average improvement in human driving capability, I don't know if that could compare to the rate at which autonomous cars could improve. And right now, of course, they're still pretty far away from where we are. I heard someone once say that after they rode in a Waymo autonomous robotaxi, they said that they felt it was like a teenager driving it that had just had an accident and been yelled at by their parents, which is actually good because it probably means that it's a very, very safe, maybe slightly inefficient because it's going so slow. But then at the same time, there might be road construction going on with weird cones or who knows what's going on in the pavement or whatever. And there's, good chances that in these edge cases, as they're called, that these cars can get confused.
Yeah, and that's why they go through the testing. And, obviously, even after these things are launched, they're constantly being updated and improved upon. It's a process. And something that a lot of people, a lot of critics of, AI and autonomous cars, fail to really realize is that people aren't perfect either. We make mistakes all the time as well. We make errors. I mean, they might not be as dramatic as some of the mistakes of what these make, but again, it's just something that's gonna, you'd think, improve over time. I mean, Tesla are currently testing the robo taxis down in Austin, Texas, and you hear about the odd little scrape here and there. You hear about some things that have happened in private testing, but you don't really hear. I mean, I keep my ear very much to the ground when it comes to the news with that because it is big news at the moment. I've not really heard about anything severe happening. And like you said, there's other services already running right now in the US, like Waymo. So if it's not already a thing, it's going to become a thing soon, you would think.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when there's these things that happen, we hear about them. Oh, it's terrible. An electric car catches on fire, or there's an accident with an autonomous car. If you truly look at the percentages, the percentage of cars that catch on fire that are electric versus the percentage of internal combustion engine cars, which by the way are carrying a big load of flammable gasoline in them, right? The percentages are actually better for electric cars, and I'm not quite sure exactly on autonomous, but it's it's probably better than on average than human drivers. That's something we should check, but it's probably not that far off when it comes to the number of instances. But when they happen, it is a big deal because it's a new technology that people are scared of. But as we mentioned early on, big strides are being made. Just this week, Uber announced that they're going to be buying or putting, starting next year, 20,000 Lucid SUVs. That's an electric SUV on the road with the Nuro. Nuro's another autonomous car company with their driver. And so it'll be launched in a major US city. They haven't said who it is, but if you look at that total, now this is I think it's over the next 4 or 5 years, 6 years, something like that. It's less than 0.5% of the total number of Uber drivers that are out there, but it's still significant. You can see where they're going, and they're also working with Wave. Uber's working with Wave, which is a company that's going to be testing in London. VW is working with them to put the ID Buzz, that little wagon in LA, and so that's Uber, and then Waymo's in like 5 US cities already, and they're looking to do more. And I think the interesting thing with Waymo is they're actually talking to Toyota about personally run autonomous vehicles. So in other words, you can actually buy one with a Toyota. This is just in the discussion phases, but can you imagine? That's one of the options, right? Just buy a fully autonomous Toyota. So, Tesla's been trying to go towards that for a long time. Like you said, they've launched this robotaxi service in Austin, which is limited right now to by invite only, but I think it's a big step when you see a major automotive manufacturer like Toyota say, "Hey, we're teaming up with Uber, and maybe you could personally get your own autonomous car." So it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, of course, Toyota the biggest car company in the world, so that's a huge deal. That is a massive deal if that does happen. But what do we think the kind of immediate future is for like a proper AI system in a car? Because we're not just talking about self-driving cars, we're talking about other things as well. Things, I mean, like we said, our cars give us of prompts. They let us know to do stuff. They tell us to take a break if they think we're, kind of slacking behind the wheel and stuff like that, which is not a perfect system by any means. It's quite basic in a sense. It's just like it detects these things, therefore it gives this message. How is AI going to kind of evolve this? Because again, just to mention Tesla, as we record this, it might have already happened by now, but Elon Musk says that the Grok AI system is going to be in Tesla vehicles very soon. And I imagine, I mean, you've got Amazon, for example, they've got Rufus, I think it is. They've got their car company as well. So it does feel like the kind of tip of the iceberg at the moment for this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the great applications for AI in cars is what I would call a guardian angel. In other words, it's just sitting there, sitting on your shoulder, watching you drive, does nothing until you start to do something you shouldn't be doing. Or it can anticipate that there's an accident about to happen based on the configuration of the cars on the road or whatever it might do. And it takes action to help you avoid what's about to happen, avoid the accident, or possibly if it's inevitable that the accident is going to happen, might take over and help with doing some steering. Because, if you think about the number of sensors that an AI driver has, it could be multiple cameras, lidars, radars, all sorts of things. The amount of information that comes in is probably greater than what you can do with your ears and your eyes. And in that case, I think that's probably a really good application. The danger, I don't know if it's a danger, but maybe the problem might be is in a way, it's like your deflated, well, pseudo deflated tire is, and in 2001 Space Odyssey, Dave, I'm sorry, you can't do that. Right? Open the pod door, Dave. Hey, let me drive. My wife's about to have a baby. No, sorry, Dave, can't do that. And even a guardian angel could probably get you in trouble. But Nonetheless, I think that's a great application. And in a way, you're that's really creeping into cars already.
It is, yeah, it is. It's just how much faith people have in it, you know. I mean, you look at flights, for example, you know, I think most flights could realistically fly without pilots. You know, the computer systems in the actual plane can do it. It's just that who the hell would get on a flight without a pilot? It's that kind of trust that's there, and it's like how much do people trust AI? And these things change over time. You look at different generations' kind of opinions on this sort of stuff. Younger people in general, they are much more open to the idea of autonomous cars than older people, and that's only going to keep on shifting. But at the moment, there's a sizable amount of people that wouldn't really want to have that, but it's a complicated issue.
Well, you know, I always thought the ultimate test is if an autonomous school bus pulls up, would you put your kid in that car and have it, there's no human driver in there, and drive it to the school? And just take this one step further. You're about to put your kid into the car, and two of the bullies that have been, bothering your kid for the last year are sitting in there, and now you put them in there. You don't have that school bus driver to say, "Hey, behave, kids." So there's these are the little things that, like you said, you have to think about. You have comfort in that pilot being in the plane, even though it probably doesn't do anything. You hope he stays awake, right, as he's flying. But I think it's more than just autonomous driving. And, I think a great example is how AI has made its way into engineering. So there's things like generative design, digital twins. Digital twins allow you to do all sorts of testing virtually. AI is actually, certainly in Formula One, is used to a great extent to look at aerodynamic analysis. Aerodynamic analysis can be very complex. The tiniest little winglet, as we've seen in some of the designs in Formula One, can make a really big difference. There's thousands and thousands of things you could change, and AI can help zero in on some of those things. Generative design can generate thousands and thousands of iterations, and maybe 900 out of 1,000 are probably aren't any good. But if it just inspires a designer somewhere, I think it can speed your way to a good design. I don't know how creative it can be. Like I know I do some things with Gemini and ChatGPT to generate me an image of a Formula One car with this or that. And I'll tell you what, sometimes I get the craziest stuff. It doesn't look anything like a Formula One car or whatever. And so I guess I suppose they're not AI is not quite yet to do the creative aspects of vehicle design, but certainly can make design more efficient.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think at this point it is a tool rather than something that is its own entity, really, which I think is a good thing because then it's not directly replacing these designers, not directly replacing this and that and the other. It's something that can be utilized. A lot of people are scared of AI, and I get it. It's changed, it's different. People are always scared about these kinds of things, but it is. If you use it in the right way, it could be very handy. It could be something that really, really saves you time. Like you mentioned about drafting emails and stuff like that. I've not really used it so much myself, but the things that you've told me about Gemini and some of my friends have told me about Gemini as well, it cuts hours, not minutes, hours out of their workday where they can do other things where they would have just been sat typing emails otherwise. It does it all for them. They just need to read it and send it. And it's usually spot on.
Well, even getting ready for a podcast like this, hey, tell me great things to talk about AI and cars, and it'll give you like 20 pages worth of stuff, and you have to be really careful too because 20 pages worth, and then you find something that's really interesting, and it turns out that this really interesting thing is not actually correct, and that's why it's so interesting because it look wow, that's really standing. But again it reduces that preparation time. It reduces the time to come up with a nice sounding email. And the same would be true for design, but it also helps in like preventative maintenance, which could be for the car that you own. It could be, can look at patterns of noises or the way the car's behaving, whatever it might be. Maybe comparing the angle of the steering wheel to how much it turns might be indicators of tire wear or a loose bearing or something like that. And the same would apply to equipment that's in factories, and AI is being used to do those types of things so that it'll improve the quality of what comes out. And I think you really touched on something, which is the whole in-car experience. So you're sitting in your car and hey car, I'm hungry, and I'm looking for a hamburger or I'm looking for this or for that. And it can, and it to some extent it's starting to do that kind of thing already. And of course AI is going to study your habits like we see now on the feeds that we get on the internet when we go on the web and all that. It's learning what we like, what we don't like. It's probably going to watch in a car. It could be a little crazy, right? Start to watch your driving habits. I've mentioned before on this podcast in Boston, where I'm from, there's a lot of crazy drivers. Maybe people in Naples can relate to this, but you have to. I'll tell you what. It's almost like a competition sometimes, and road rage is a very common thing here. And I can see the AI eventually saying, "Now calm down, Ed." Calm down. It becomes like, looking at your eyes and the redness in your face. Who knows, right? It's like you have a therapist with you all the time. Again, could be, I don't know if you call that the dark side of things, but the more it learns about what you like, who you are, your mood, it could be everything from telling you where that restaurant or service or whatever it is that you need, the infotainment, that what you want to listen to getting a little bit invasive. Again, going back to my tire is not underinflated. So I guess that's the balance, but over time I would imagine it would probably become better. I do want to mention electric vehicles too. I think part of the reason that the range is improving is the ability to manage the batteries and all that. And AI does
Mm.
play a role in that as well. So I mean, these are the low level things that I think we probably don't see that AI is involved in to some extent, which are actually quite good. And I think in the end, this whole thing about AI taking our jobs and all that, I heard someone say once that AI will not take your job. What's going to take your job is someone that knows how to use AI. That's what you should really be worried about.
Mm.
So I think it's important to jump in and learn his capabilities. Hey, try it to help you write an email or give that lane assist a chance. Not when it's snowing, though. Don't do it when it's snowing. Not my experience from that. So yeah, the people, like you say, it's another tool. So learn. I know you've used a regular hammer all your life. Learn how to use the electric nail gun, and you probably can work faster.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. That's a very good way to look at it. I do think that is interesting. That's actually just reminded me, the whole, of the road rage thing. I'm not sure if you've seen the advert over in the States, but I just remember there was a commercial here. I'm sure it's for LG. I think it's for the LG where it's all about the AI assistant in the home and in the car as well. There's a guy who's really, really depressed. It's like a really dark day. It's raining, and the car detects that he's not feeling very well at all, and it starts playing his favorite playlists and uplifting music. And I saw that advert of my girlfriend. I'm just like, isn't that amazing? Can you imagine if it did that? And she was like, I couldn't think of anything worse. That'd just make me even more angry. So that's the opinions. People either love it or they hate it. But I do get it because like if I was really annoyed if someone just completely cut me up on the road and I was like swearing and I was getting irate and stuff, and if some voice came I was saying, now George, you need to calm down and concentrate on the driving, I'd be like, shut up. I would not be
That would
happy
make
about
it
that.
worse.
It would
It would
make
make
it
it
worse.
worse.
It's like if you're very angry and someone says calm down, it doesn't calm you down.
Well, but it would probably learn. Well, there's got to be
Yeah.
something else that calms George down. I'm gonna find it. Maybe it hands you a candy bar or something, or I don't know.
Have a break, have a Kit Kat.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah,
Other
exactly,
chocolate is
exactly.
available. But yeah, no, that's a kind of discussion on. I mean, we could go on about this for a long, long time. There's so many different facets to it. But what do you guys think about AI in cars? It's something that is technically already there, but it's something that is very much going to become more and more prevalent, especially as electric vehicle technology keeps going, as AI and autonomous cars keep kind of advancing and stuff. But let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Is there anything else you want to kind of cover before we close this one out?
Yeah, as you know, George, me and you are both great fans of motorsports and all things racing. And I think we just have to say something about racing and AI. And certainly there's autonomous racing. There's autonomous cars. We've talked a lot about that. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't like autonomous racing because there aren't humans in it. Personally, I think there's something to it. It'll never compete against Formula One or anything like that, but I do believe that the autonomous cars offers an opportunity to do things with cars that you can't do when there's a human in it. Turns at higher G's, crazy stunts, who knows? The other thing I think more immediate, and it's actually happening already, is the use of AI to take the reams and reams of data, 250 sensors plus on a Formula One car. In it comes now, of course, you got 100 engineers, if you count all the people back at home base, right, that want to now massage that data together with what the driver tells them and figure out what to do in the next sessions that's coming up in 1 hour. AI is a great tool to help with race strategy, race preparation. There's certainly simulation that's going on and all that. Then take all that from year to year to year and the use of AI to take that information and design the next car. So, anyways, I think that in motorsports is a great example. You know, pushing things to the extreme, they'll probably eventually make it into the commercial world. But like you say, it'd be great to hear from our listeners the good and the bad. What do they think? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What would you think if it told you to pull over and your tire was truly inflated or whatever it is, right? I think whenever there's big changes like this, there's always going to be the naysayers and there's always going to be the people that think it's the ultimate. So yeah, it'd be great to hear what everybody thinks.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this one, Ed. And yeah, just let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've got any suggestions for other topics you want us to cover, whether it's motorsport or motoring or anything else, I want to hear what you have to say about that. Cheers, Ed.
Hey, cheers to you, George.